Welcome to Business Owner Tales from the Trenches, the podcast for business owners who want to see around corners and thrive financially. Your host is Carr, CEO and business owner at CornerCap. Tune in every other week for lessons learned from the trenches of entrepreneurship, business successes, and financial independence. Here's Cannon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Cannon, Carr, and Claudia Bettinger here with you. Claudia, this is a really fun program today. It actually grew out of a photo shoot we were doing with these two gentlemen. And during one of the in-between shot conversations we had was around, what do you see from behind the camera about the entrepreneurs who you're filming on the other side, about them and their own journeys, and what leads to good decisions, what leads to bad decisions, and what do you learn about that? And it just created this fascinating episode. Why don't you tell us a little bit about our guest today?
Yeah, today we have Chris Jones and Willie Johnson, and they help small business owners and entrepreneurs market their businesses with their videography and photography skills. Their companies, Drone Media Solutions and Triple M Productions, were born out of a passion for helping others while using their expertise behind the lens. They each had a corporate career in sales and management and met when they worked at Verizon. Years later, they connected after they started their own videography businesses and now often work as collaborators.
It's a fun episode, and there are three things we think you'll get from this episode. First, you'll just get to hear their own story as entrepreneurs who came from the corporate world, how they got started, and how they started building their business. And that's a fascinating journey in and of itself. Secondly, you're going to learn some best practices for how to communicate your brand messaging through video, which is becoming more and more important, both on websites and social media. And it is different than what is often traditionally assumed to work. So worth listening to that. And third, what we call those blind spots, right? You're going to learn what these guys have seen from their side of the camera about some behaviors that don't work as well, right? And it's particularly uncovered in the video medium. So it's a really insightful episode. We really enjoy it. If you want to learn more about the work we do, we've got our podcast episodes on our website at cornercap.com. We also talk about our 3R framework that we do when we work with financial planning with business owners. And Claudia, we also have done a video with these guys. Tell us.
Yes, we have our webinar, The Story of Your Business, which is all about the importance of entrepreneurs and business owners telling their story. And you can find the link in their show notes. And Willie and Chris actually helped us shoot that. So credits to them.
They did a great job with it. So sit back and enjoy this episode with Chris and Willie. Well, Chris and Willie, thanks for joining the program. I thought before we get into things you see from behind the camera about entrepreneurs and the decisions they make, I thought we'd first just hear a little bit about your story. You both have had early in your careers worked for larger companies. Did you always, each of you, want to be an entrepreneur in some way? Chris, you can kind of jump in first, and Willie next.
I will say that I think it probably was there. And specifically, I started to notice it when I moved to Atlanta. I started with Best Buy in Augusta, and like I said, I worked in various disciplines there, so I got to see quite a bit, managing, different departments and the different people that work in those departments. But at the same time, in that photography space, I would hire people and see them go on out and start doing their own thing full time, and I always thought, man, that would be cool to get back to doing what my dad was doing, but in this current climate. So it kind of took me a little while to, get the courage, because to be honest, man, that W-2 world, man, is very safe and, it's relaxing. So it wasn't until I did get to Verizon and I actually started doing meal prep at Verizon. And that was kind of like my first entrepreneurial endeavor that did do well and gave me that confidence that, hey, I could do something,
Yeah. How about you, Willie?
For me, I moving from a small town in Alabama, I used to make clothes for people. Well, I started off making clothes for myself, and people would ask me, hey, could you do that for me? So at the time, I didn't understand that I was being an entrepreneur, but I knew that I liked to do things, for one, to make people look better, for two, to bring more money into my pocket. I'm gonna be honest. So it forced me to move here to Atlanta. I actually moved to Atlanta for fashion design and music because that was my background. I love singing and I love fashion. Fast forward, working at Verizon, that's where I met Chris. The funny thing is me and Chris never talked about photography or videography ever. We never
Oh, really?
talked. We never, and we worked together a couple years. We never
Yeah.
talked about it, and it was because I really wasn't into it at that moment as being an entrepreneur, but I like to help people capture their moments. So I wasn't charging like that. I was just doing it because I loved it. But the pandemic is what pushed me into being an entrepreneur and going full time with it. Just really not, as he said, that W-2 can definitely be a safe space. But the pandemic changed that safe space and shook it up and made us say, hey, listen, you have to make sure you're on your P's and Q's and, not just have, one thing that you're doing, maybe multiple things, multiple streams of income. But they just forced me to go into entrepreneurship full time, and I'm doing things that I love. I love helping people see their vision. I love helping people dress and and bring things together. So that's what pushed me into entrepreneurship.
Well, I know you both love what you do. Looking back on it, the last 3 to 5 years, has it been as great as you thought it would be, or was that an easy transition to leave that W-2? I know it's scary. There's safety there.
Chris, I'll let you
Looking
go
back
first
on
on
it,
that one.
yeah. Well, looking back on it, was that as easy as you had hoped, or is there always challenges?
It hasn't been easy, but I will say it actually probably was the perfect storm of that going on. I was very fortunate. One of the clients that I was working with, their business saw an uptick during the pandemic, and then I was fortunate to partner with other brands and businesses that were, doing the same thing. So the work didn't necessarily slow down, so to speak, but navigating all the different people that I did meet during that time period, it was almost like getting 10 to 20 years of experience in a few months' time, seeing that. So you got this, that's where I really got to see what a solid plan looked like during chaos, and those who were maximizing on that time. Some people they didn't. There was a pandemic going on and everything, and a lot of people were pausing and stuff. Some of these people I was working with, man, they were pushing full steam ahead, and that really helped me to grow as well. So I looked at that as being a sweet time. That was like perfect time for me to launch actually during that time.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Chris.
Well, so now when y'all were at Verizon, did you make the connection to say, hey, let's do this together? Or did you both kind of venture out at first and then connect on photography?
This was years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was years later. I had left Verizon. He had left Verizon. I was out doing my thing. I actually didn't know Chris did anything with photography and videography. And I think we found each other or something on social media. And then I was like, oh, man, I didn't know you did it. And he was like, yeah. Then that's when the story came in, his father and all. And I'm like, hey, you way ahead, when it comes to that. For me, I just came in, I always did things that I like. I didn't understand the science of capturing people the correct way. But I always say it's not necessarily a correct way. It's the way that capture the moment the correct way. Because you can go through all of the steps and do the lighting and all that they tell you to do, but it may not capture the moment the way that if you tweak it a little bit, or you take one light away, instead of having 3-point lighting, you have 2 lights, or maybe 1 light, to have the focus. So I think, it's a big difference when it comes to learning how to do certain things. But also to, understanding the basis, but then also bringing it back and saying, hey, you know what? I'd rather be more creative and bring out something that people love than to just keep doing what people say you should do.
Right. Absolutely. Well, let's use that love and that expertise, right, that you have, for both of you, as you look and you've built, not only photography, but video business and using drone technology and just different technologies. And, I know you work with small businesses and large businesses together. This podcast focuses more on that small business owner and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Just as you see that group of clients, in those smaller businesses don't have the budgets of a large corporation. What do they need to know about using video and technology to communicate their brand? What have you seen there?
You can go ahead, Chris.
So it's gotten pretty interesting. So during the pandemic, one thing I noticed is a lot of marketing kind of took place. I know this video isn't going to be shown, but a lot of marketing started to be kind of like in the moment. And there's another term I want to use for it that just skipped my mind. But yeah, you can have the professional cameras and have that set up and get your message out. But to your point, like you're saying, so all of those businesses, they don't have the budget to do those right away, right? They've got to get that product out and communicate with their people the best way they know how. So best way to do it, use what you have in front of you and just stay consistent with it. You don't have to, I think it was Les Snead said it, you don't have to be great to start, but to be great, you have to start. So that's the biggest advice I would recommend to business owners, even photographers, anybody doing it. Just be consistent with what you have and focus on that messaging more so than what it looks like. That stuff will come later on as you do improve. I think it's just important to get started using what you have available, and that cell phone is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on that, I'll say this, people are afraid of the budget, right? Because they're like, hey, I can't go with, the big companies that's doing the same thing that I'm doing. But I like to say this to them. Just doing some research, the average billboard cost in Atlanta is between $1,000 to $15,000 per month, right? So we put the average of about, let's say, $5,000 per month. And depending on how many people rise, let's just say, in cars, 100,000 people ride past their billboard a day, right? But maybe 2% of that is even needing the product that you're looking for, that you're selling. But then also, too, within that 2%, are they at that moment in time where they're looking at that billboard and saying, you know what, hey, that could be something that could help me. That's what I've been looking for. Most of the time, that doesn't happen. So not saying that billboard doesn't work, but if you take it and say, you know what, I may have $1,000 and I can have a target audience on social media, and I am going to reach, let's say, maybe upwards to 20,000 people. Let's just say for $1,000 a month, you can reach 20,000 accounts. And those people, that are on social media searching for what it is your product is, it shows that you can actually reach people better when you're homing in on who you're trying to reach instead of just going with the traditional way. You have to also understand that there's different ways that you can reach people, and it's better to get 100 people out of 1,000 than to it's better to get 100 people out of 20,000 than to get 5 people out of 100,000. You're spending more money to try to reach people, but you're not getting the return on your investment. So you have to understand where to focus in at. And like Chris said, if you don't have a camera, if you're not able to hire a production company or anything, start with your phone. You can actually send that footage out to people like me and Chris that can edit the videos for you and help with that. So yes, that's just a piggyback on Chris was saying.
Yeah, the technology of the phone's getting better and better, so that it is good enough. In fact, in some cases, probably better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, stay consistent, right? Get started, stay consistent with who you are, what your skill is, and then have that focus into a targeted campaign. Do that. So, have you seen some examples of smaller businesses actually making an impact in that regard?
Actually, yeah. I was about to add that on to it, but that's perfect. So I just had a new customer consultation yesterday. And they've got this product. It's a THC based barbecue sauce or something like that, right? And he reached out to me, and before I talked to them, I usually ask to see their website, their social media, and what they've got. And he hasn't been able to put money into marketing from a professional standpoint. But I went and looked back at everything that he's done, and he's being consistent with documenting. Hey, I'm at this trade show today showing this sauce. Hey, I'm out here in Vegas at this place doing it today. Hey, here's a little sneak peek into how we make it. As a videographer or whatnot, I may look at it and I can point, say, hey, this angle or that ain't right. But he's being consistent, showing that stuff there. And to me, even though I run a business, whatever, but that makes you that much more excited to partner with someone like that, because I know deep down inside, he understands it. He may not have had the budget to hire me in the past, but he's ready to make that move now. And I know once he does do that, he's got the mindset, and he's looking in the right direction where he wants to take the company, and that's the sweet spot of partnering up with people that see that, and he's also open to, hey, what else could I do to get better, So he's not like, hey, I got it all and I know everything. He's like, no, tell me, help me out with that part. So, like I said, I got to see that just as immediate as yesterday. So that was pretty dope.
Yeah, a great example. Willie, anything you were going to add to that?
Just to add a little bit, I'll say stay with Chris' story, but I'll say this: the biggest part that I've seen that stop people from growing, that is that they're not willing to change or compromise their idea. Right? No one has became rich and famous by themselves. They had to have other people, have other ideas, and be willing to try those ideas. And you have people that will have a great product and they want it to look exactly like this, but then tell you, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how it should be. And it's like, hey, I see something that adds on to your vision, but a lot of them may not want you to do that. And then it pigeonholes them from being able to grow. So the fact that what Chris said, he saw what it was that he needed. He just wasn't there yet. But now that he's there, he's coming to Chris talking about what it is that he needs. And he's like, hey, is it anything else that you see? Now he's allowing that freedom of, okay, Chris comes in and see things and like, hey, I feel that this would be good. And if you do it this way. So now he's allowing to be a team instead of being an individual.
That's an awesome story. I mean, if you can find those clients you love to work with, or those open-minded who show adaptability, who bring some expertise, but realize you have an expertise and can shape something to improve it. Do all your clients behave that way, or not all of them do?
No, all of them don't. And it's sad because it's hard, and not to overtalk Chris, just want to say the sad part about it is when someone is stuck on it needs to be this way, you see that they're holding themselves back, and you have to be very cautious of how you maneuver within that, because sometimes if you're a good person like me and Chris, we'll see it and we're like, okay, you know what, we're going to work with, but some people you understand you can't work with, because no matter what you're doing or you're going to say to them, they're not going to listen to you. And if you don't play that correctly, it can actually stress you out and cause a problem between you all, because they're not listening, but then you're wanting to help. Then it's like, I don't want to put my name on this because I know it's not going to work, and I don't want to seem like I'm the failure, which is 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. The person that creates it is the one that created a bad product, and not the person that was in front of the product.
Chris, how do you why do you think people are afraid to change and let go like that, and in a medium that clearly requires thinking that way?
I think it's comfort, because I'm gonna be honest, I can relate to it better now, because I know for me, there's things inside of my business that I do that I need to change and adapt to, but there's that comfort level there. Hey, I've done it this way X amount of times and I've gotten this result, right? Well, sometimes you don't know what other factors play into that, why you have such that narrow-minded view. So, uncovering those things and trying to talk to them, it's never confrontational, but you try to get to a point to where you can talk to them where they'll actually hear. And when we can get to that level where we can both listen and hear and understand, hey, this is the reason why I'm recommending this, and this is what it can open you up to, vice versa. Then you can get to a common ground, and then you guys can kind of see, hey, all right, let's slowly do this, or let's try this, or let's do a test here or there. So, not every, right away, everybody's always going to go for, what it is you recommend. Sometimes they've got to see it done sometimes by other client that you've done. Like, I had an example where I was recommending to do some training videos to a client, and they were like, yeah, that's something we probably should do, but later on down the road with it, whatever. So when we did those, I happened to just advertise one of them just briefly in one of my stories or whatnot, and they saw it, and it was like, hey, you know what, I think we do want to go ahead and do it, whatever. So it was like, I equate that to, I'm a parent, father, husband, and sometimes I'll tell my wife something, she won't hear it. Her best friend to come and say it, she'll do it. Same thing like when we were kids, our parents tell us something, we're not going to listen to it, but that peer, they see it somewhere else, and then they will go for it. So sometimes you got to alter your approach. Sometimes you got to suggestively show them some things or whatever, subliminally show them some things, and it gets that message across. But I try not to take it personal. Hey, I do my due diligence and try to come with the right approach so that they will hear it. And if it's going to take a little bit more time for that to go, and we got that relationship, I have no problem with, over a period of time, I'm sure they may see that. So,
And And let me piggyback off of that to say something
Sure.
Chris said. I think another thing as well too is people are afraid to ask people that are doing better than them. Ask them what did they do to get there, right?
Hmm.
For example, Chris, he's better at things than me when it comes to editing, right? So I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I'm just going to figure it out. I'll call him, hey, Chris, what is it? What do you do when you do this? Or how does this look, right? And although we're in the same field, you have to understand that I like to use an analogy that I saw. It's a bunch of different types of bread at the grocery store, a
Hmm.
bunch of different companies, bread and water, and yet those companies are still there. So
Hmm.
it's enough money out here for everyone in your business. You just have to find your target audience. And
Hmm.
just because someone is selling the same thing that you do, their target audience may be someone that's 30 to 45, and your target audience may be someone that's 25 to 35. So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily mean that you're taking from each other or competing with each other. It's too many people out here to be competing with, individuals, especially when you're starting your business and you're small.
Hmm.
Even when you become large as well too, it's too many people to have to compete. Now, do you want to stay in front of them? Yes. So I say this quick thing. I like to tell people to look at their business as themselves, right? As health, right? And
Hmm.
going back to what Chris said, you can do 100 push-ups in your 20s and it helps your body stay good. And in your 30s, it can help your body stay good. But if you continue to do that as you get older, those 100 push-ups is not going to do the same thing that it did in your 20s. You may
Hmm.
have to do 200 push-ups. You may have to do cardio with it now as well too. So you have to understand that your business is the same way as you're looking at your body and health. To keep your business healthy, you have to be willing to add on to what you are currently doing that make you successful, but you have to add some things as well too to keep you successful as well.
Hmm. Oh, that's a great point. Well, so we're talking a little bit about blind spots right here, and we're
Yeah.
going to get to a moment just solutions. You guys do great
Mm-hmm.
work. We've worked with you as well, and it's so interesting when you see your expertise take you to those places that
Mm-hmm.
that it improve the messaging and the branding outside of like my awareness zone, right? So we'll get
Yeah.
to that, but just wrapping up on the blind spots, where have you seen that materialize in decisions? And I know we've talked in the past about like channel
Yeah.
misalignment, wrong messaging in the wrong channel,
Yeah.
not synced up with your target audience. Do you have one or two stories that just kind of show where those disconnects happened and how either you were able to reposition that or how a competitor you worked with actually
Yeah.
may have done it better?
And I'm just going to say this, Chris, not even tell a story, just say this. You have to learn and know what your story is in
Mm-hmm.
order to convey it to people. So no matter what you do, if you're not having a story that can tell people about you, no matter what you do, it's going to confuse people. And you only have 3 to 5 seconds to capture someone's attention. After that, they're gone, especially this day and time.
Yeah.
So know what your story is. And I can say that, and then you can go, Chris.
Yeah. Go ahead,
No,
Chris. That's a great point.
no, that's a good point, and it kind of ties into the story that I'm telling. So, working with an individual that they're in a position of influencing a lot of people, and we were hired as a marketing team and a media team to kind of help brand this person a certain way. And don't get me wrong, there's a subject matter expert in that realm of what they do, but they did hire us to have him connect better with his potential target audience. And without getting into the super nitty gritty details of it, this person just really was really stuck on, hey, I'm the top person in this company. I'm making all the money, and what I'm doing is obviously, right, but kind of wanted to disregard what we had put together for him. I mean, even some of the stuff we even filmed and put together for him, but it was really a area where we saw people weren't connecting with his message. His message had worked for that older group,
Mm-hmm.
but now he's trying to bring in some of the younger people, and that messaging didn't work out for him there with that. And we went and did some of that. Some of his peers wanted to hire us to do some of the same stuff for him, so we went and changed that messaging. And part of one of the things to do was they would go take these trips and stuff and then talk to some of their top people, whereas he wanted to record it all and put it in their house. So after he saw the success of that trip that the other people did to kind of communicate to them, and there was so much team building on that there while they were out there, and they got so much more buy-in, just changing the environment. Well, he started doing those too, started doing the trips and start trying to do things, hosting stuff here to connect more with his people or whatnot. So that was an example of, hey, he was trying to do his own thing, didn't work out. Other people saw what we were trying to do, got us. We went and did it for them, and then he's like, "Well, wait a minute, let
Mm-hmm.
me get back on that wave too." So,
Yeah. No, that's powerful. So, Willie, I didn't know if you're going to add something to that or had a
No,
separate.
I just wanted to, the biggest part is people don't understand their story. And well, they know their story. They don't know how to convey their story through the camera. And as we were speaking, me and you were recording, I saw a couple things and I was like, hey, how about this or this? And the fact that you were open to it, and then it allowed you to be able to do it more and be more comfortable with it. That's the biggest thing, understanding your story, but also being able to convey it to people. That you can tell your story all day. If it's boring, I'm not going to listen, no matter how much I need the product or services that you're selling. But if you know how to convey it to me, to touch an emotional aspect, to make me want to listen to you, that's when now it's easier for people to want to purchase from you and not purchase your product.
Right. How's the communication strategy you're using now? How different is it than it was 3 years ago, even?
Stuff's gotten, so I'll use real estate for example. Early on doing this, when I was doing real estate, it was more so about, hey, the listing of the house, maybe headshots of the agents or whatever and things like that, right? Well, now it's changed to, these agents are having to really show their worth now with short form content now. So it may be, hey, these are the top places to shop in this area. Hey, this is the thing to look for in a home when you're getting this done or whatever, right? So it's a lot more knowledge-based marketing really across the board. But that one in real estate really just kind of jumps back out to front of mind for me, because real estate was where I first started with this. And to see its growth is mind-boggling. But again, pandemic, the market and all that stuff has kind of had that influence in how do you connect with new buyers in a short amount of time. And social media has definitely shaped that to have us communicate in the way that everybody's receiving it. So,
and what does short form content look like in that regard? Right, it used to be a headshot, it used to be maybe just some kind of indication of homes. Now it's got to be more engaging, and it varies by segment and client, but broadly, what does that look like? Is it videos that tell some ancillary story or extra story?
Yeah, well, yeah, so it's kind of more of a specialty segment. So we're not going to talk about the overall home house, but 30 to 40 seconds, we might be talking about a kitchen, or we may be talking about the buying process, or what vendor to work with, or neighborhoods and stuff like that, first time buyers. So it's a little more targeted to a certain topic, but it's a short amount of time that people stay engaged with it and listen through the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Willie, what have you seen change in the last 3 years as you've helped people tell their stories?
What I've seen change, what would be the main thing? I would say people, the fear of I'm just trying to make sure I use the correct words. The fear of spending money or betting on themselves. They'll do it with their business, but then when it comes to content, it seems like, because of the pandemic, what made people more afraid is, I don't want to spend money somewhere that I may not have to, and just save it just in case of a rainy day, because of how the pandemic caused people to just really look at business, especially small businesses. So I would say, some, they don't want to spend the money that they need to. They want to have a, something that may cost, let's say $5,000, but they have a budget of $1,000, and then they get someone to do it for cheaper, and then they don't like the price, and now they want to come back to you, So it's like, it helps you save money. You spent more money in the long run anyway, because you have to go to someone that did it for cheaper, and you pay for what you get. So I think that's the biggest part. I would say I've seen people being afraid to spend money and bet on themselves when it comes to finances and creating marketing and promotions for their business.
Yeah. Well, and you reminded me too, one earlier thing you'd mentioned is just the presence of the phone itself. I mean, the cameras on the phones and the technology are getting enough to where, I mean, yes, you guys bring in equipment and set it up, but it sounds like someone can also send you some homemade video in a way. And through the power of editing, you probably can either salvage it or improve it. I mean, can it work that simply?
Yes.
Yes.
One of the ones I like to reference, man. I don't know if everybody's probably seen it, but there's this lady that's got this cream-based deodorant,
Mhm.
and it's called Loom or something, whatever. But almost all of the commercials I've seen for this,
Mhm.
she's in her bedroom recording it, and it's on the cell phone. But the graphics and everything are on there. It's talking about the product. It's a nice product shot in the little window on the side there. But I think she came out during the pandemic, and all of the messaging has been filmed from a phone, and it looks like it's the front facing camera too, right? So it's even local.
Mhm.
But like I said, it's dressed up in that package with it, and they're doing well from what we can see. Like they've even introduced now a man product, and it's following that same type of marketing strategy. Now, every now and then, I think I have seen a nice put together ad inside of there, but their strategy is hey, I'm telling you about this new product, and not everybody knows about it. You need to know about it. So it's kind of like drawing you in. Like, wait a minute, somebody's giving me some secret tip or whatever like that. They're on
Mhm.
there. And even if you look on TikTok now, like I'm really diving in to TikTok more and just understanding it. Like it, I've never seen like everybody almost on there is selling you something. It's a selfie like today, eyelashes. There's somebody did the same thing with some cologne. Hey, this cologne here is on here for $14, but it smells like the $500 cologne.
Mhm.
So you feel like, hey, somebody's giving me a little secret, to do whatever with it. And man, that's been pretty impactful. So it's for companies now, it's having a mix of that professionally done content, some
Yeah.
of that content that you do on your own,
Mhm.
and then some of the influencer or showing the people actually living the lifestyle with that product or service or what that looks like.
Yeah. And probably a small business has a little bit more freedom to take some chances there,
Yeah.
because they can move the needle. They can afford a smaller budget, in that
Yeah.
sense, right? Because it can move the needle for
Mhm.
them. And certainly rich place to explore. So how do you guys stay ahead of the technology curve or the user curve as the market keeps evolving?
YouTube
But
University.
YouTube, yeah, YouTube
I like
University,
to
and
follow I follow different photographers and videographers as well
yeah,
too. And just see some of the things that they're doing,
yeah,
because they may have a niche in what they're using and doing will also work for my niche as well too. And we may be in two different niches, but type of equipment, lens or new way of shooting, new way of editing. So I'm always, paying attention to newer, well, not newer, but different photographers and videographers and things that they're doing, just to put that in my bag. So maybe I may need that one day, so let me
hmm
learn this so I can understand it, just in case that comes up, you know how to handle things, and shoot things in a certain way.
hmm absolutely. How about you,
yeah,
Chris?
so yeah, for me, a combination of that, YouTube University really helped me out. I've got my, X amount of go-tos that I do, but I like to also keep a fingerprint on the target audiences that I kind of work with, and I get to work with a large range and whatnot. But the youth, ultimately, I kind of keep a strong fingerprint to them to what they're receiving and what's working for them, because
Mhm.
ultimately they are kind of how they receive stuff is pushing the way the companies push it out anyway. So YouTube, and networking with like Willie, like I in my area, I see a couple other videographers that are doing, just as good. And luckily, a lot of the ones I do reach out to, they're willing to, network it as well. And they're level headed. They don't think or look at it as being competition or whatnot. But ultimately, going back to it for me, I'm a big tech junkie anyway. So like I've been paying attention to CES right now, what's coming out.
Oh yeah.
Uh, fun time of year for me, man. Like I'm gonna make it out there one of these years to Vegas to go take that in. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I do typically just I scour looking for this stuff. Like if you see me at a restaurant and I'm by myself and I'm on my phone, I'm not looking on there for ha-has or whatever. Like I'm really
hmm
looking on there, researching, hey, what can I put into the tool bag today? Or how is this being done? Oh, how did they do that? I may want to try to do that, whatever. So you got to be a consistent student, I think, of it, and search out these different mediums and what's going on to stay on top of it. So I don't know everything. I'm still trying to learn every day,
Yep.
new techniques and tools to use. So,
You have to be a
Yeah.
sponge in this business. You have to always be a sponge.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Well, you guys do show that curiosity to keep learning. I mean, and as you talk about it, it's a full-time job, right? You're doing
Yeah.
your day job and night job, keeping clients happy, and you're doing your day job and night job, staying current and continuing to learn, and it's great. Well, last question for you guys: where do you see your either individual but collective businesses, particularly in photography and videography, going in 5 or 10 years? Where would you ultimately like to see your work taking you?
Well, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
It's all good. So for myself, we're still focused on scaling out. So I am looking to build bigger teams and I love the editing, I love the shooting part of it, but as you know, we're forming this more into a business, so to speak. I really see, I'm going to build up those other people there, but I'm really excited. Like, my daughter has really shown curiosity to this, and she started to help out on photo shoots with product and some of the other stuff. And, I'm explaining to her, like, hey, ideally I'm building this up so that, you all can run this, right? So to be able to get that influx of youthful talent into this here, so that kind of go back and address some of the stuff there, with staying relevant and, knowing what's going on out there. But we're really looking to turn into an agency here and, service as many people as we can that align with what we stand for and want to accomplish.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Will?
Chris, I should have went first then, you took everything that I was going to say.
I tried to
that's why you guys think alike and work. That's why y'all work so well together.
Yeah, it like you said, just building it into a business that not only helps me, but helps other, individuals that's creatives as well, too. And I don't want to just focus on photography and videography when it comes to it. I want to be able to have a business as creatives. I want to have a business that's going to have designers and have image consultants, editors, photographers. So now when you come to my business, you have a one-stop shop. Everything that you need to create the videos and the content that you need is all in-house. So, hey, if you need a photo shoot and you need headshots, I have that here for you. If you need someone to be able to write a script for you for your commercial and shoot it, we have that here for you. So everything that you need to create content, that's where I see my business growing, and being able to have people not only in just Georgia, in Atlanta, but in different states as well, too, where we can have business everywhere.
Yeah. That's awesome. Chris, do you miss the fashion world at all now? Or is this so captivated you enough to where it's this is the new fashion passion for you?
Willie's the fashion.
I'm the fashion. Yeah, I'm the fashion person. Yes.
Oh, I meant I meant Willie.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
No, here, we'll scratch that. I'll clean that up and I'll say.
No, it's okay.
We'll clean that up. So, Willie, yeah. So you has this replaced that fashion passion for you then?
I like that fashion passion. That's a catchy phrase. But I would say not necessarily it. Well, yes, I'll say it replaced it in the aspect. It allowed me to do both instead of just sticking strictly to fashion. Now I can do both. I can help with fashion image consulting, but I also can capture the images as well too. I just had a shoot this weekend. It was an elderly couple. The guy, he was 89 years old, and he never did a photo shoot before. So I, was showing him how to pose and things like that. And when I took the picture of him, he was like, that doesn't feel right, because he was so used to one thing. But when he saw the picture, his eyes lit up like, wow, I know that guy right there, but I've never seen him like that, so just being able to bring that out. So, and helping them dress as well too. Took him to one of my friend's shops, and Chris has helped me shoot there, but helped him get his entire outfit and everything. And he was like, no, I'm not going to wear that. That's too young for me. And I'm like, hey, age is nothing but a number, but if you feel young, you can dress young. And when he saw the look, he was like, I would have never picked this out, but I appreciate it. So, yeah, so it replaced it by adding more to it. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I loved working with you guys because you complement each other so well. And you're both curious. Each of you brings a strength to the situation, and real time, we can make adjustments, which is, I think, some of the things you're highlighting here. And I think yourselves being entrepreneurs in your own right helps you from behind the camera, help the entrepreneur on the other side of the camera adapt and learn. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, this has been a blast. I've loved,
Yes,
I love how you guys have uniquely captured what you see behind the camera to help with those of us standing in front of the camera do a better job. So,
Yes,
Chris and Willie, thanks for joining us. We'll stay in touch and keep the journey going.
All right. Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Welcome back to the studio. Cannon and Claudia here with you. Claudia, what'd you think?
I love this episode. I think it's so fun. You know, we always have entrepreneurs on, but these entrepreneurs are specifically have built this business to help other entrepreneurs. And so getting that insight from behind the lens, I think it was just so interesting to listen to and really insightful.
Yeah, it's cool. They came from the corporate world. We see that with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we've interviewed several like that on the show.
Right.
You know, they were comfortable with that W-2, right? And then they went out and started their own business and realized what it was like to not have the W-2, right? And the thrills and chills of that. But you get sense people like Chris and Willie, you know, they love it. They were ready for it. So it's wonderful story that they have and wonderful work they're doing. And hearing how they stay current, right? And in the technology and how they keep things fresh as they work in the business, but also on it,
right?
As entrepreneurs is great. Well, I thought we would focus on two key things here. The first one is about those blind spots, right? Which we asked Chris and Willie to talk about. And, you know, it's blind spots that they uncover kind of from behind the camera, not in a mean way, right? But you can see how when there's a disconnect, it causes friction for them. And really kind of the opening nugget here I'll point out is that you can really get some great advice from unexpected, untapped, but knowledgeable sources, right? That you just assume, you know, the guys behind the camera are just taking photo shots of us or videos. And in fact, they know a lot.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And you can learn a lot. I thought there were three basic blind spots they uncovered. One, that ego, how important and how damaging ego can be when you assume you know the answer.
Right.
Second, just how being in the comfort zone and how that keeps people from taking a risk, not willing to change, and afraid to look vulnerable. And third is being overly wedded to the magic of your product, right? Those can create blinders. So, you know, obviously those can be leadership traits that are frustrating, but they become very apparent in this new medium of video.
Right.
And, you know, it can be a challenge when it's totally tone deaf and out of sync.
Yeah, well, and it was perfectly exemplified by Chris's story about that CEO, the leader who was convinced that it needed to be about him and that he knew what he was doing because it had always worked for him and his older clients. But they were going after a new target. They were going after younger people. And Chris knew that that probably wouldn't work. And you know, the leader didn't really listen to his advice until he saw Chris doing it for someone else and then
realized it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they said it was just a big disconnect for that medium, right? It worked for one, but in this video medium for a different audience, total disconnect.
Right.
And you had to adapt, had to position. And I think, you know, so the question is, how do you protect against those blind spots? And I thought Chris and Willie did articulate, at least what I took from it, a couple ways to do it. One, you want both sides listening, right? Whether you're on one side of the camera or the other, and you get that common ground, but listening to each other, so key. Secondly, I think, you know, as a leader, you have to have that curiosity to keep exploring this new medium and how to communicate in it and be open to having to adapt. And third is just trust and try, right? You know, you want to stay authentic to your brand, you want to stay consistent to it, but in this new medium, it does have to adapt, and you have to find new forms, new timing,
right?
And just try some things. And it's very interesting. So secondly, I thought just what was fascinating in this is just their views on how using video can have, particularly for small businesses on a lower budget, can have a big impact. And you can do it even without a big budget and fancy resources.
Absolutely.
And there are a couple thoughts here, but one, I think it was Willie who said, use what's in front of you and stay consistent. Right? Using what's in front of you being, you know, you've got your brand, you've got the messaging you want, know what it is, but go ahead and start with it, right? You don't have to reinvent, but be consistent. Know what your messaging is, know where you're going to focus, understand the value of targeting and be specific and just stay consistent with it. So I thought that was so important. He talked a lot about humanizing the message. And it's not just about the product, it's creating that experience. It's that emotional impact, right? And
absolutely,
you know, you've helped us with that in our video shoots.
Yes, you know, it's we work in wealth management, so we have a bunch of analysts around here, and it can be difficult to get them to understand that not everybody wants to look at the numbers. They want to connect with you emotionally. They want to see the more human side of you. And, you know, stealing a quote from one of our favorite vendors, Michelle Prince, you know, she always says people want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And video is one of the best ways to do that. And so it's really important to, you know, kind of have a bit more emotional vulnerability and not always be about the product or the analytical side.
That's such a great point. I mean, you know, you've taken me on that journey, right? I mean, you want the emotional connection and using video and even just natural communication is just so important. I love the story I think Willie shared about the real estate agents, or maybe it was Chris, how it used to be about agent listings, headshots of the agent. Now it's about short form video, right? And putting content in terms of, very specific topic like a kitchen for 30 seconds, or talking about the neighborhood, the context of the neighborhood. And it's those emotional side of things and the benefits. And it's not just, just the listing itself. So it's really interesting how to humanize the message and create that experience through this medium. And the final point too, I think it was Willie who said, be aware of your own story. Know what it is, because if you don't know what it is, it'll confuse the audience, right? You'll just be in your messaging, and it just creates disconnects there. And even if you are aware of your own story, know how to communicate it through the camera. And that's what you were just talking about, right? I mean, finding the training and the vulnerability to be able to do just that. So, just to summarize, some great insights into how blind spots can be uncovered, and when they can be damaging, and how do you use this medium correctly. And then also, just some of the best practices that we're seeing in use of video. So we appreciate Chris and Willie working with us and for being on the program, and we will see everyone on the next one.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Are you looking for more resources to help your business? Visit cornercappodcast.com for our free ebooks to help you plan for inevitable transitions in your business. Tune back in every other week for a new episode.